Well, folks, my name is Jim Worthen. The show is Worthen One here on Channel 17 Cox Cable in Santa Barbara. You can check the showings there, but for many people, the way to see us is to go to TV Santa Barbara's website, go to the demand side, scroll all the way down to Worthen One, and you can see it. You can stop it and go. Or go to YouTube, same thing, Worthen One. Last time I checked, there were 10 shows still in their bank that you didn't have to go very far to watch. You know, they were all there. And in fact, I was just thinking as I said that, the guy I have tonight maybe in that 10 shows, which would go back about 3 months or so. So it's reason I tell you this is so you can tell your friends anywhere in the world, but particularly anywhere in California and Tennessee, two big places that Tremblay Financial controls. And don't wish you controlled California. Tennessee will take care of itself. My guest is Tim Tremblay, a dear friend, a expert in financing and has a great system, but also a great athlete, a great collector of memorabilia, and a great family man and community leader in Santa Barbara. Did I give you enough pump up, Tim?
Yeah, I appreciate that. Thanks so much, Jim. It's good to be here.
Well, it's always a pleasure, and we always are able to cover the current economy and current events that affect local investment and the people you deal with, which I will get to it. I think right now they're in a panic from all sides.
Well, it's so true. But I also wanted to say this as you begin the broadcast here. We have an office in Nashville, Tennessee.
Yeah.
And my son Troy has opened that office, and we're real proud to have that established in a real exciting, growing city in Nashville. And we have Troy and some of his clients in Nashville that are watching this as well. And then I have a new friend up in the Fresno area, Amy and her fiance John, that are looking at joining Tremblay Financial, and they should be watching right now from Fresno. And we also have clients and advisors up in Northern California and also in Texas, and as well as other friends. We're licensed in all 50 states, and we have clients in 20 states around the country.
Well, two questions there. Amy and John, are they talking about joining you as counselors and working in the office?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Well, Amy is. She's a very successful advisor up in Fresno.
Oh.
And she was recommended to us, and we've been trying to work out the details to get her to join Tremblay Financial out of Fresno, and she might also be working in Texas.
You do the strangest things. Boys, Pennsylvania, is that a city of 4,900 and some people?
Yeah, we also have a practice that we've built in Blairsville, Pennsylvania.
Blairsville,
yeah.
Blairsville, okay.
It's about 30 miles outside of Pittsburgh. And my old roommate and teammate, we both played football together, Frank Harsh. He grew up in Blairsville. And
not very popular, I guess.
Well, he is one of the great athletes to ever come out of that town. And there are a lot of great athletes that come out of western Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
And he and I were roommates and teammates at Wake Forest. He became one of my best friends. He's my son's godfather. And he retired from Pfizer. He's working with that company for years. And I took care of his retirement plan. And then I helped his family, his parents and his sister and others relatives with their financial planning. And then he ran for mayor and won. He won in a landslide. In a city of 5,000, he got 420 votes versus 120 for his competition. And so he's the mayor of Blairsville. And after he became mayor, he said, I want you taking care of my clients, my friends, my people here in Blairsville. And so I said, okay. So he set up a dinner seminar at their golf country club. And I came in and presented in front of 50 people at the country club.
Great seminars. We won't tell people about them because you'll be having hundreds instead of just 50 to 80.
Yeah, that's true. Well, I did the presentation. I said, if anyone's interested, come to the coffee shop tomorrow morning. They have a coffee shop downtown. And I'll do a no cost, no obligation, a personal financial consultation. Well, I got to the coffee shop at 6 o'clock in the morning and there were 30 people there. And I had a loft, and I got to the table in the back of the loft, put up a Tremblay financial sign, and I met with the first the couple that came in, and we went through a financial plan, and I told them what I needed to get from them, and I'd be in touch. And then I leaned over the rail and said, next.
15 to 30 minutes each time.
And I was with personal financial consultations all day long. And so I now have well over 20, probably 30 clients in Blairsville. And so once a year I go to Tremblay Financial Blairsville Coffee Shop, and we do a review with clients in Blairsville.
Well, you have a blessing and a curse in that as you talk to people, they like you and want to be involved with you.
Yeah.
And it is a blessing, but it's a curse for the pressure. You know, a lot of people in your industry have lost their families because they got so busy. I think you found a way to overcome that.
Yes, I have. My daughter is my assistant. She took over from my mom. My mom worked with me from the time she retired at 65 until she was 93.
Yeah.
And just it was wonderful having her there. Well, now my daughter is my assistant, and my wife Marcia is the office manager. My son is an advisor, and my granddaughter is at Santa Barbara City College, and she's working as an intern. So if I want to see my family, I go to work.
Yeah. Well, your mother was a saint. I would come in, and this is years ago when we didn't know each other as well, and she would treat me like I was a prince. Oh, I'll see if he can see you right now. I know you don't have an appointment, but I'm just checking in to see if you got time for coffee. Well, he'll have time, Jim.
Yeah.
Just really a wonderful lady.
Yep, she was.
In fact, I don't know if I want, I'm going to tell it. Your cell phone. You never had a cell phone years ago.
Right.
And all of a sudden you had a cell phone. And it's your mother's cell phone.
That's right.
Yeah. And very few of us are blessed to have it, the number.
That's true.
Yeah. But when people call Tremblay Financial at 569-1982, do I have it memorized?
805 area code, that's right.
They you get either you right away or a quick call back.
We have now 17 professionals in our office in Santa Barbara. And when we began 26 years ago, it was a little office with card tables, and we had my mom, my wife, another guy and his wife, and we were calling people about this little business we were getting started. And we now have offices in Westlake, in Santa Maria, and now in Nashville, Tennessee, and of course you can't forget Tremblay Financial Blairsville Coffee Shop. And then we supervise offices in San Jose and Sacramento. And I'm looking forward to doing the same with Amy's practice in Fresno.
Now do you have a plaque you carry with you, Tremblay Financial? Or do you write it out on a piece of paper and put it at the coffee shop?
Well, from the COVID days, I would go down to Starbucks because the clients couldn't come into my office. That wasn't allowed. But we'd go to Starbucks and sit outside. And so I brought a Tremblay Financial Starbucks sign that I would put on a table outside of Starbucks. And as long as we bought coffee and some of the food there, the local Starbucks said, you go ahead. And so that
Well,
was where we met with clients outdoors during COVID.
Yeah, we would run into each other at Starbucks La Cumbre Plaza.
Yeah, that's it.
With a good friend of both of ours, Judge Brian Hill.
Yes.
And I'd never know when the third person was there whether you were doing business or enjoying sports or talking to Brian.
I think it was both.
Pardon me. So tell me about these awards that Mike is going to put up a picture of right now. This was in Nashville. What was the group?
Well, what happened was every year our broker-dealer has what's called the Leaders Conference.
Leaders Conference.
And it's all the top producers of Centaurus throughout the country.
Can we have that picture, Mike? So go ahead.
And so
there it is.
We'll have.
Who are those people?
Well, that is the award that we got for being the top large branch for all of the Centaurus system. So we've won that award for now 10 years in a row. We're considered the best large branch in the system. And that was a picture of me and Marcia, my son Troy. And then we have Ron King, who's the CEO in the background, and Wes King, his son, who is the president on the right, and then his other son, Paul King, who is an attorney and the head of compliance for
Now
Centaurus.
this is Centaurus?
Centaurus is our broker-dealer.
Okay.
They represent 700 practices throughout the country. And most are smaller branches. They don't have the number of people that we do, or outside branches or offices as well. And so in that category of the larger branches, we've been awarded the top large branch for 10 years in a row at Centaurus.
So yours is a large branch. How much bigger are there other branches that are 100? Or are they mainly less than 50?
I would say the large branches are somewhere between 15 and 20 professionals. Okay. And when I started with Prudential Bache, for example, that's a big wirehouse. Yeah. It's a huge firm. It's now Wells Fargo. And they had a total of probably 8,000 brokers, offices throughout the country. And the office that I was in Santa Barbara was about the size of Tremblay Financial when I joined them. And now, you're looking at moving forward, you're seeing more and more independent firms. Where back then it was really the big corporations, the big wirehouses that really had most of the financial advisors. Independents are becoming more and more, the norm now in our business.
My feeling about the warehouses, produced Balch and those, were that they were there to market their own securities or securities that they had a kind of a vested interest in. Mm-hmm. Was that a bad feeling, or was that accurate?
Yeah, that was one of the negative things about working with the big corporations. They want you using their mutual fund, their IPO, their insurance company. It may or may not be the best thing for the client, but it's certainly the best thing for the corporation. And if you don't do it, you're not a team player. They want you working with a corporation. And you get rewarded if you do the corporation's investments. Now, sometimes they're just fine, but sometimes they're not the best for your client. And so I wanted to be in a position where I didn't have that kind of pressure at all. And so I started Tremblay Financial back in 1997. And we've grown, and each year we've done more and more revenues and increased, and we've received some awards. The one that we're most proud of is we've been selected by the Reader's Choice in Santa Barbara, the readers of the local paper. 16 years in a row we've been voted the best full-service investment firm. And unfortunately that's going to discontinue because the Santa Barbara News Press closed.
Yeah.
But that was a real proud accomplishment for all of us at Tremblay Financial.
Should be. You mentioned the newspaper closed. You are on the radio all the time, and you used to, and I haven't noticed lately, you used to give a financial update, like where the Dow Jones was in the morning. But now it's more an institutional. Is that?
Well, what I've done for like 25 years in a row now, every Friday we do a market update on K-Lite with Gary and Catherine. And that's the most listened to FM station.
Yeah.
But also for a 10-year stretch, I would go down to the Santa Barbara local ABC affiliate, KEYT, and I would do a 10-minute market report at the anchor desk for the television station. And so,
Channel 3.
Channel 3 did that for 10 years. That was, a great experience. Was able to get a lot of exposure for Tremblay Financial. But it's a lot of work when you do that.
Yeah.
And you have to run through compliance, and it became more and more difficult. And so I decided after 10 years that we'd done enough with that.
Yeah.
And so it's been radio. I also do the Andy Caldwell show. That's on 3 different radio stations in 3 different counties. A very popular talk show. That's been regular for me now too.
You had somebody that you occasionally communicate with talk you into doing just before the news press closed, doing a column that would appear every 2 weeks. You said how difficult it would be to schedule that with everything you were doing, and I said, well, you have a staff write it. That's what legislators do, or politicians. They have somebody write it, corporate executives, and then they do a little touch up, and then they read it like it's their own. You said, I can't do that. I have to write it, and your news press is gone, but you're still doing that, and it appears in a online newspaper that everybody should pay attention to.
The Santa Barbara Current.
Yeah,
that's right. I just did one. The last one that I did was the most popular for the online. It had 20,000 views and 77 comments, and it was about the border, the cost of the border, what that means to our economy. And I thought it was just pretty much factual. And it's interesting. You can bring out your opinions and put the facts on the table, but if you're on the wrong side, the left versus the right, you're going to have people that just don't agree, and that's something you have to be willing to do. Have the courage to say what you believe is true, and hopefully make a difference.
You had a tagline, and I can remember one time in the last couple of months you forgot it, or it got edited out, and I love it. What's your final line?
Stay the course.
Stay the course.
That's right. Regardless, you got to stay the course.
Yeah. Be consistent. And I really appreciate your writings. Again, it's my narcissism that I ask God to forgive me for, but I like to take credit for some of the things you've done because I pushed you or opened it up to you, and you've done the same for me. So.
Yeah. No, I appreciate that. It's turned out to be something that I enjoy doing, the column, and I think it's making an impact that's a good one. So I'll continue doing it, Jim.
Yeah, I have a technique that is almost like getting somebody to be addicted in a good way, and that is try it a couple of times. You don't have to keep doing it. Try it, and then they're hooked. All right?
Yeah, that's true.
Let's transition, because I want to conclude with your triad, go back to your business.
Yeah.
But we have an election campaign right now, and it's, I think you give a fair analysis without, and you can't say who you're for, but the difference between the two campaigns I see is specificity. One campaign, the candidate has specifics. The other, I haven't figured out what their campaign is. Is that accurate?
Yeah, and I think even take that a step further. When you look at the Trump campaign, he's talking about the economy and business, deregulating, taxes, things that are going to make a difference for the economy. That we saw in his first term, his first year, the market went dramatically up. It was
You
a very
beat me
good
to
thing.
it.
Yeah.
You beat me to it. I want you to go on, but my question was going to be, but how can you trust him to do that?
Yeah. he
His
did
first time he did it.
Yeah, and then you look at the Democrat side, it's about big government. They want the government to take care of everything, and that's probably the worst decision you can make, is to put it in the hands of the government. I mean, I was talking to a client today who had to go to the DMV, and they stood in line and waited, and they said, no, you can't come here and pay for that now. You have to go out to the kiosk outside to pay for it, and you have to get an app for your phone. Well, they didn't know how to do that, and it was so difficult. And then they tried to have someone help them, and you had to stand in line and wait, and then they move on, and then finally you get up there and, oh, it's my break, and the person leaves. I mean, the DMV has taken a rap over the years for being a difficult place to be.
Right.
But that's an example of what we see with the government, and you want that whole attitude to be what we have for healthcare, have it all taken over by the government. You got to see a doctor.
Yeah.
You're going to see him maybe in a month. The government should be there for the things that we need to keep us safe. Make sure that we have the opportunities for what this country was built for: life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. But as they come in and take over and become more and more, the governor of everything that we do. It makes things difficult, and it's not efficient, and we run into problems, and we see everything take a downturn.
Yeah,
and so that's the concern that I have, and I think it's a real concern. And this is a very important election as a result.
Again, comparing government and Trump, when he came to power, there was in his first term, there was a scandal in the Veterans Bureau. Veterans were literally dying on the waiting list. They couldn't get in to see a doctor for 6-8 months.
Yeah.
There were even stories that they died in line when they finally got an appointment, and they had to wait hours to get in. And he cut through that and made just arbitrary rulings. You will see them within 30 days.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't tell them how to. He didn't micromanage. You will see them within 30 days.
Mm-hmm.
And I kind of like that. I'm looking forward to any government area where they say, you will cut the budget 10%. And the bureaucrat says, well, where do we cut it? That's up to you. You will cut the budget 10%.
Yeah.
And so you compare the two races as you really believe Kamala, as she was telling us what she wanted to do 2-4 years ago. You believe she really will do away with private medicine, private insurance, and have it be all the government?
I think she would like that, right?
She said
whether she's able to do that, that's anybody's guess.
Mm-hmm.
How much of what she really believes in is going to be even what all the Democrats believe in, much less the Republicans. So it's a real concern for a lot of folks about their economy, their future, and where things are going to end up with her as president. Now, Trump, he has his faults. There's no question. He's not a politician. And you hear the Democrats always saying, well, geez, he lies all the time. And they call these things lies. He's a real estate salesman, developer in New York City. And when he would have a building ready to go for sale or wanted people to come and lease out the offices, this is the greatest building in the world. That's what they do. They exaggerate. And he continues to do that same thing as a candidate and as president when he talks. He uses hyperbole. And people that listen to that, they understand he isn't trying to say this is factually what it is when he talks about, we're going to have the greatest economy the world has ever seen. It's something he would like, but it's not a lie, it's an exaggeration. That's how he's done business over the years. He's not a politician. He is a real estate guy that decided he's wanted to make a difference in politics for the betterment of the world and our country.
He truly knows how to make a deal, but he also knows how to get things done. I recall that the first thing that he kind of rose up out of his own wheeling and dealing in New York was they had a skating rink, and the city had spent, in those days, a couple of $1 million, and they couldn't get it straightened out. And he said, let me try. And it was done in 10 weeks.
Yeah.
Just people were able to use it. It was and way under the expenses.
Back in the day, I used to go to New York maybe 4 times a year. We'd have conferences and different reasons to go to New York, continuing education and so on.
Yeah.
And meeting with some of the companies that we've worked with over the years and so on. And I was there when that ice skating rink in Central Park was completed. And it was beautiful. It was beautiful. And that tells you, free enterprise, let free enterprise take over. Don't have the government do these things because they're just not good at it.
Yeah.
And they get stuck in their, bureaucracies, and they freeze up and can't get things done because they're not sure, what the others are going to think or what's going to happen. And it's just this bureaucratic machine that it becomes more and more cumbersome. And one of the things that Trump did when he came in was he talked about for every new regulation you're going to have to get rid of 2. And so what that does is it frees up the machine. It frees up free enterprise. And you can do a whole lot of good for our families, for our communities, for our economy, if you have that kind of philosophy.
Yeah, he got rid of 100,000 regulations, and he didn't replace them with 50. He replaced with less than 20.
Yeah, yeah.
He doesn't believe in overpromising and underperforming. He believes in the opposite. I want to turn now to, I'm sure, things that your clients are worried about and ask you about. Israel, the war that is going on there, and the Damocles sword hanging over them that at any moment there could be a very broad war, including Iran. Mm-hmm. How do you? I think you have a acronym that helps with it, but how do you calm them and get them to stay the course?
Yeah, that's a difficult situation, and I have a number of clients of the Jewish persuasion that are just so upset with what's going on. I have others that are upset just for what has taken place on both sides of the aisle. It's a very difficult thing, right? And now you have this tremendous support of what the Hamas has done, and the Gaza invasion, and the Israel saying we're not going to let this continue, and so it's caused a lot of consternation. And no matter how you look at war in the Ukraine, look at what's going on in Israel, and look what we went through in Vietnam, in Afghanistan. You look how that ended. It was horrible. War is hell. There's just no two if, ands, or buts. It's horrible. But it's also part of humanity. It's something that we've had to deal with since day one. And I have clients that are upset with that. They're upset with this political situation that's going on. They're upset with so much that's happened with COVID that's changed things. You know, the defund the police was a big move, and it caused a lot of problems. You know, businesses, and seeing, you know, shoplifting increase, that's tough. What's going on at the border is very difficult. And there's a lot of finger pointing, both sides of the aisle, saying that whose fault it is. And so as you turn on the TV, there's just a lot of negative. And what I've told my clients, I said, you know, regardless of your persuasion, that there's what we call WTT, a real simple thing. WTT. Refuse to worry. That's the W. Refuse. Think about all the worry that you've done over your lifetime. How much has that accomplished? It does no good. So refuse to worry. Trust the good Lord. That's the first T. Trust Him. It's all in His hands in the grand scheme of things. So if you trust Him, that's going to take some of the consternation away. And the thing that you top it off with is the second T, thanks. Thank the good Lord for every blessing that you have.
Yeah.
And you can think of a lot of good things. If you're continually focused on the negative, focused on all these difficulties that we've had to go through, and it's gone on since I've been in the business, 41 years. We had the crash in 1987. We had Milken and Boesky later on in the junk bond fiasco. We had savings and loans that went under, they're gone. Then we had the 9/11. That was an unbelievable, difficult time that we went through. And then Afghanistan and Iraq. And then later on it was the Great Recession. The worst recession that we've had since the Great Depression. And then you go through COVID. Those are all difficult, difficult times. But we've made it through it. And our clients using this triad asset allocation have met their goals, regardless of what this economy has done. And all the worrying in the world over those difficult times that we've been through did no good. And in the end, if you trust the Lord and you thank Him, you're going to get through those difficult times, and you're going to have a much better attitude. Start thinking about the things you're grateful for, your family, where you live, the job that you have that's taking care of your family and loved ones. Think about the good things and thank Him for it. And that's going to keep your attitude up, and you're going to do just fine.
But you have clients that don't believe in the Lord, probably don't even believe in God.
Well, I'll tell them, give it a chance.
Yeah, try it. That's it. Yeah. You had two friends, one passed in the last 3 or 4 months, who were the example of what went wrong in the savings and loan industry. Mm-hmm. Billy Levy and Roy Millender put together county savings, mm-hmm. and it grew rapidly in 5 or 6 years to being a real player in our area. And then the government changed all the rules on savings and loans. They went out and arranged to have money to comply with those rules. I think back in that day, they needed more liquidity. They arranged personal signatures to get $80 million, and the government wouldn't let them do it. Mm-hmm. They hadn't done it in the way the government wanted it done. Mm-hmm. And they were willing to go on the line, put up their own money to save county savings, and mm-hmm. the government destroyed county savings. And
well, all the savings and loans.
Yeah, I was going to say that's just an local example, and
mm-hmm. Right.
Two good guys, but we both know and love.
Yep.
We miss Billy.
Yep.
And see Roy at a lot of your functions, and mm-hmm. If you go by Chick-fil-A most mornings, and there's a guy sitting there reading a book or a Bible, 4 out of 5 days, say, hi Roy, how are you doing?
That's true.
That's where I go and meet with him occasionally. Mm-hmm. He's been a blessed man in my life. He was a lay pastor at Trinity Baptist and then at Westmont, and I was telling my son over the weekend, my son who's 42, he has met Roy, of course, and he said, I said, you know, Roy married your mother and I at Westmont Chapel. He said, I didn't know that. Yeah. So it's a great guy. We know some wonderful people, and they've been guided by some of the same principles that you talk about. Let's talk about, we've got about 20 minutes. There's one other hot spot, and I want to get your take on it, and that's the Ukraine. We have, luckily not putting any Americans at risk, but we've poured weaponry. We've fired the war with our own weaponry, and weaponry that, by the way, was committed and paid for by Taiwan. Now we have to backfill because we stole Taiwan's weaponry and gave it to the Ukraine. How do you respond to clients that's really got them upset? What's happening? Russia attacking the Ukraine.
You know, again, it's a very, very difficult situation, and you know, it's hell for so many people. You know, I played on a football team with Jerry Root. It was a Fellowship of Christian Athletes type outreach to the Soviet Union in 1991, and we played in Moscow, Donetsk, Kharkov, and the Czech Republic. Well, Donetsk and Kharkov are both cities in the Ukraine.
Yeah.
So I spent some good time there, and you know, it was a wonderful experience to be able to do that. This is when the Soviet Union was just opening up, and people were so hungry to hear something about Christianity, and we brought 1,000 Bibles on that trip to give out to folks that wanted them. Our first game in Donetsk, all the Bibles were gone.
Yeah.
And you know, the people were just so loving and friendly in the Ukraine, and there's so much history. It's a beautiful country, and it's just so sad to see what's going on, right?
Well,
and then you go to you know, wars in general. You know, how do you become a part of someone else's war? And what NATO and what those that are supporting the Ukraine are looking at is if this is a real threat to Western democracy. If Putin comes in and takes over the Ukraine, then the next thing is going to be the rest of used to be in the Eastern Bloc, and he's going to try to come into Europe, and you know, they're concerned that we'll see another Hitler kind of move by Russia. Well, you know, there's so many that don't believe that would happen. They're looking at the Ukraine as, you know, traditionally been a part of the Soviet Union,
Yeah.
and most of certainly the southern section of the Ukraine is all Russian speaking. They're Russian people. So it's a difficult situation to say, you know, where should these folks be? And even when you talk to some of the folks in the Ukraine, they feel more Russian than they do Ukrainian. So it's a complicated issue. It's not a simple issue, but it really isn't our issue. Now, Western democracy is our issue. And you know, you have to look at, you know, what that would really mean. You know, if we decided not to help the Ukraine and they fell, would that give them impetus and, you know, the idea that we're going to continue taking over countries again? You know, it's a question that we can't answer. But we can say that the Ukraine is not our war, and I'd feel very sad if we started sending our troops into Ukraine.
No way.
That would be sad. But by the same token, you know, you'd want to see this thing end. And you're seeing Ukraine, it's amazing that they've been able to come in and they've gone into invaded Russia, and they've got prisoners of their own. They've taken over Russian territory. So this thing isn't going to end anytime soon.
No. The democracy is not always the answer, but is always a answer. When Obama was president, Russia seized Crimea, and they quickly said that's part of Russia. And while the world was wrestling diplomatically with it, they said, let's have a vote. And 80% of the people in Crimea wanted to be part of Russia. No more war in Crimea till recently because of Ukraine. But as I say, it's not the only answer. It's not always the answer, but it is always a answer to say, let the people decide. And then,
Well, then you want to make sure that those elections, those votes, are accurate.
well, Jimmy Carter did a great job. The only thing I can really compliment him for, besides his teaching Bible study for years, was that he gathered people in the region, governments and non-government organizations, and they monitored the election and made sure it was fair. And some people said that it's fairer than elections in the United States because they were making sure that the people remember the purple fingers and people coming out after they voted.
Yeah.
And so those concerns affect how your clients are thinking about their future. You have a system that you teach, and you have seminars. We don't want to do like you did at the coffee shop in Pennsylvania, but you have seminars where you talk about the triad. And let's spend this last...
And it's funny you mentioned that, because I happen to have a book that I wrote.
Oh, that's right. You did a book.
This is the e-book that I wrote on the triad. Now, if you go to our website, there's a QR code, and you can pull it up, and you can print it out or read it online. And it really goes into depth.
Is this a way to avoid buying people dinner?
Well, that could work. we have bought a lot of dinners.
Oh, you do,
There's no question. But it's been a way for our clients to really have a financial plan that's going to get them to the finish in a way that is not going to cause them consternation. They're going to be at peace even through these difficult times. We established this program 26 years ago when we opened Tremblay Financial Services. And we call it the triad because there are 3 different asset classes. We have safe money as the foundation.
Before you go into that, when you counsel people, what do you charge them when you spend that couple hours learning where they are?
You know, it's interesting. So many financial advisors charge a fee for everything. They're kind of like attorneys. As soon as you come in and start talking, the clock goes on. And we don't do that at Tremblay Financial.
You mean people
we'll give you an absolutely free personal financial consultation. You come in, our goal is to find out who you are financially. Because an investment financial plan, a goal for one person is going to be different than another. Though we have 3 different asset classes, we'll have different kinds of concentration in these asset classes depending on where that client is financially on their journey to retirement.
Yeah, I was going to say, you also, and I'll let you tell about it, but you also point out that their plan depends on where they are in life.
Correct.
A couple at 25 years old, same family, same background, isn't the same as people at 65.
That's absolutely right. So there are 3 asset classes. We have our safe money, and right now the fixed indexed annuities, insurance products, those are the best of the safe money. It wasn't until just recently that at least short-term rates came up for treasuries. You can get over 5% with a T-bill, a 3-month T-bill. But we have an inverted yield curve. So as interest rates go out in time, they give less of a return. Usually, interest rates increase as you go out further in time. When I got in the business in 1983, the 30-year Treasury was paying a guaranteed 19.1%. So you had a guaranteed 30 years where you're going to make 19% with an absolute guarantee with the U.S. government.
But your
Well, so-
mortgages were at 19%.
Well, that's true, and if you tell folks that back then, and they go, "Oh, that's not very good." You have to get more. There was inflation. It was a difficult time. So since '83, we saw interest rates decline, until we got to COVID. It was actually zero, and in some instances, some areas, it was negative. And so that was a very difficult time for interest vehicles. And safe money at that time, if you were in the interest-bearing vehicles, guaranteed that you would lose money, because net after tax and inflation, you're losing. So we had to develop other areas where we can call it safe money that gives you an opportunity to have a decent return.
I was talking to someone once, and they said, "Oh, they sell annuities, and they get 20 or 30% right off the top." Are annuities part of this, and how?
Yeah, annuities are, and when you talk about annuities, it's like saying all mutual funds or all stocks are this or that. So there's a whole wide range of annuities, and the ones that get the bad rap are the variable annuities. You have three types: variable, fixed, and fixed indexed. The variables, you have fees on the mutual funds. You have fees from the insurance company that put these together on their platform. So you have to overcome these fees before you make any money, and a lot of financial advisors charge a fee on top of that.
So you avoid that.
We're not doing the variables. It'd have to be a rare exception to go with a variable these days. Then you have the fixed. And until recently, you weren't getting any kind of a return with a fixed. They're part of the fixed arena of guaranteed, and that was 0 point nothing. You might get up to 2 or 3% up until recently. So we're not looking at the fixed. You don't have a management fee, but the return is minimal.
Now,
the fixed indexed is based on call options.
now, are they safe monies still?
You can use the word safe, even though it's based on market returns. This one can only go sideways or up, never down. So a call option is an option to buy. And it's a huge investment arena in and of itself, the option market. And there are puts and calls. Puts are options to sell, calls are options to buy. So it can be complicated, it can be risky, it can be conservative. What the financial institutions are doing, they're not looking at puts, they're looking at call options. That's a security. And what they do is invest in a call option, and it could be a 1-year term, and a year later, that call option matures. Now, let's say the market's at 40,000. They invest in a 1-year call option in the market, and the market goes to 45,000. You can now buy something valued at 45 for 40 because you own that call option. And that's how you make the money with this. It's not an interest rate, it's based on the return of the call option.
But if it goes to 38 or 37,
then you don't buy. You're not going to buy it, but you don't lose anything. You don't make anything. You don't lose anything. No, it's an option. It's not the actual market.
Oh.
So you're not going to pay 45 for something that's at 40, so you don't make anything. You don't lose anything.
You don't pay for the option?
It's part of the program. The insurance company is on the hook for the cost of the call option. Okay, and so you participate in that upside move with the call option with your safe money. And after the year, that whatever you make on the call option is locked in. Now that's your high water mark. You can never go below that. And I look at a 10-year stretch when we were in 2000 to 2010. That's what we call the lost decade. It was the worst 10 years that we had since the Great Depression. And if you invested $100,000 in 2000, you were at a record high. The dot-coms had just brought you up there. Then over the next 3 years, we had the meltdown of the dot-coms, 9/11, Afghanistan. The Dow Jones Industrial would have brought your loss down to 51%.
Wow.
With the fixed index, you still had your 100,000 at the end of that 3-year period. You could have been in a CD at 0 point nothing, but you still had your 100, right? Then over the next 4 years, fueled by collateralized mortgage obligations, the market went to a record high in 2008, a little higher than 2000. Your call options over that 4-year period would have taken your 100,000 to 140. 2008, it's locked in at 140. If you had 100,000 in the Dow, at the end of that year, you would have had 40. It dropped 60%. Came back, but here you are, 10 years later, in blue chip stocks, down 20%. With a fixed index, at the end of that 10-year period, you're up 40%, and the money's safe. So during the worst market, it was the best return that we had.
So that's leg one. And again, we'll talk about how you blend these legs based upon the need of the client. What's leg two? It's at the bottom.
Alternatives. Those are investments that are non-correlated. They're not correlated to the stock market. They don't trade. So as the market goes through its gyrations, you don't have to worry about that with the alternatives. And we're using non-traded preferred stocks. Preferred stocks are safer than common stocks. You don't have the risk of the market. If they're not traded, they're a 5-year hold and they're paying a nice dividend. We're getting preferreds now that are paying between 6 and 9% every month. And so what we do with the alternatives, we could have a real estate program or a BDC, a business development corporation. Those are alternatives that don't trade. They pay a nice dividend. That dividend will go into the stock and bond market in a managed account. It could be a no-load mutual fund if you don't have enough for the managed portfolio. A managed portfolio oftentimes is $100,000 minimum. But every month we dollar cost average. So what does that do? When the market's down, you get more for your money. When the market's up, you don't get as many shares. So you actually applaud market declines because you're dollar cost averaging every month.
You're taking right advantage of it.
Yeah. And so if you didn't dollar cost average and the market came back to where it was before without adding it all, you'd be right there where you were when the market declined, right? If you're dollar cost averaging all the way down and back up, you don't get back to where you were. You're significantly higher because you bought a lot of cheaper shares along the way that brought your portfolio up. So this dollar cost averaging approach is a great opportunity for folks that have the time to be in the market.
You, at one of your presentations, there was a company that invested in middle price rentals and condominiums. And they had I think it was 5-year return of 10% a year. Now, where does that fits in?
That would also be in the alternative space. When you say 10 a year, that would include the appreciation in addition to the cash flow. So it would have a cash flow of about 5%. That would come in every month. At the end of that 5-year period, you have an appreciation. So there's a whole wide range, and what we do is we find the assets that fit our clients' needs.
Different products.
Yeah. And so someone that's about to retire, they're going to have more of their money in the safe portion. They can't afford to risk it. They have to have it ready for income. They'll still have some in the market and some in the alternatives, but most of it's going to be safe. If you're young and you have plenty of years ahead of you, most of your money's going to be in the market. And you're going to dollar cost average, but you're going to be more aggressive because time mitigates risk. But you'll still have some in the safe category.
Is the third the market and
the managed money, stocks and bonds. Still an important part of the triad. So that approach has been the key to the success that our clients have had and that we've had at Tremblay Financial.
And if you're listening to this, folks, read about it. You realize that it does depend on where you are in life and your plan. You talk to somebody and they've got $3,000 coming in from Social Security. They have some minor investments. They get $1,000 or $2,000, and you counsel them, and they've been living on $10,000 a month, and they don't want to give that up. They want to retire and continue to have that kind of lifestyle. That's when you blend the triad into getting them that kind of income.
Yeah, the nice thing about the triad is it's very easy to go from growth to income. When it comes time for income, instead of dollar cost averaging, those dividends go to your checkbook. Instead of having a growth portfolio on the managed account, it's now an income portfolio. The safe money easily converts to income. And we can have income coming from 1, 2, 3, or all of the assets that we have in the portfolio to take care of the income needs of our client.
In the last 3 minutes, what I hear is that the system protects people from walking in and saying, did you see what the market did? I've got to buy. I've got to sell. I need more income because I'm quit my job and I'm only on Social Security. Your system protects them against.
I remember the Great Recession. The market had declined dramatically. We're down 60% in blue chips. It was a very difficult time for a lot of people. That's when they said 401ks became 201ks. Well, I had clients that said, I don't even want to come in and see my portfolio. And I said, no, you need to come in. We need to do the review. So they came in and saw they didn't lose a dime with the safe money. They saw they didn't lose a dime with the alternatives. They're not in the stock market. They're continuing to pay their dividend. And the market was down dramatically, but we're buying it. You want to buy low. So they came out happy. They go, my God, I'm so glad to be where I am.
So,
where if you're all in the market, you don't have that opportunity, you're going to have a difficult time in the down markets.
So you put them into the triad, but they didn't consciously remember how it was working for them.
That's right.
And
then
they come in a panic, and you...
And what will happen is we'll get more referrals, more people coming to Tremblay Financial at the difficult times, because our clients will say, oh, I didn't lose money during the Great Recession, or when you have COVID or some of these problems that come up. And is that true? And then they come in, we show them how the triad works, and we'll get more clientele that way during the tough times. When the markets are rocking and rolling, nobody has a concern. You're fine. But when you go through the difficult times, that's when you have to be concerned.
Well, we've been playing all the contact information on the TV. You're looking to help more people.
Always.
They call your number, and you or Devin or someone will get back to them.
That's right. Megan will answer the phone, and we have a team. Like I said, 17 professionals. We have assistants that are licensed that help our clients. We like to get together on a regular basis for reviews. We're going to be there for our clients through thick and thin. And that's been our mantra, and it's going to continue to stay the course.
Stay the course. Tim, some people are saying this, that there's no Tremblay Financial right next door. They can't call up and say, Tim, can I come and have coffee with you? Can you still help them if they contact you?
Oh yeah, we have clients all over the country. And like I said, I was in Pennsylvania, and we have clients in Texas and North Carolina. Via Zoom or FaceTime and over the phone, it's not a problem. We're able to take, and we're all licensed in all 50 states. So we're here to help folks regardless of where they might be.
Well, Tim, as always, we didn't get to sports this time.
Well, God bless you, and stay the course, and we're going to be fine.
49ers to the Super Bowl.
Go Rams.
Go Rams.